And you want me to sit in my seat and stand idly by and allow this craziness to happen? You could come after me if you want, but you elected me to stand up. You elected me to use the law. You elected me to go to court. You elected me to continue to challenge this administration. You elected me to stand up for the least of God's children. You elected me to continue fighting on, and I will fight on.
You know, it's kind of funny to see New York State Attorney General Letitia James grow ever more unhinged based on the prospect that she is going to be investigated for the lies that she told on financial documents related to properties after she drummed up that case against the evil orange man and was so happy, so elated by the fact that she was able to win that civil judgment against him and had been celebrating that up until the moment that the evil orange man ended up winning his second term. So we are treated to video after video like the one that I played in the open of her just losing her mind repeatedly. But guess what? Some citizens in the state of New York are not having it, and she's starting to get heckled at different events, and I absolutely love it. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the demise of Letitia James. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
My question is for Tush James. Will you apologize to President Trump for wasting millions of dollars and the state of New York for a witch trial? And how does it feel to know that you will be in prison for mortgage fraud?
Thank you for coming. We want to thank him for coming. We respect all opinions. Everybody knows those allegations are baseless. They're discredited. And so we want to thank him. Our next speaker.
So that question right there, so good, so hilarious, had me cracking up, and all the different various people in the audience that are booing this guy, that are saying that he should be ashamed of himself, that are calling the case against Letitia James a witch hunt, they need to shut the hell up, because in reality, Letitia James' mortgage fraud case is pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Anybody can look at the documents themselves, because it shows us beyond any shadow of a doubt that Letitia James was lying in order to secure better mortgage terms. And by the way, contrary to what the mainstream media is trying to tell you about this particular case, about how this is a Republican-led witch hunt, in reality, the guy who discovered these discrepancies in Letitia James' public filings based on her assets was actually Sam Antar, who is known as Crazy Eddie, or he was known as Crazy Eddie back in the 80s, which, by the way, ended up turning into America's greatest retail fraud in history. So yeah, this guy behind these commercials.
Edison came up with lots of great ideas, but nothing as great as a new Crazy Eddie Edison New Jersey Superstore. Yes, Crazy Eddie's Edison New Jersey grand opening is going on right now through Sunday. Thousands of free Crazy Eddie t-shirts and baseball caps, and all great Crazy Eddie Superstores are celebrating during Crazy Eddie's grand opening blowout blitz. So come on down to Edison, New Jersey. Thousands of free Crazy Eddie t-shirts and baseball caps. Let Crazy Eddie light up your life with prices that are insane.
Was the person who uncovered these documents, and the documents are in fact damning. Now, we've gone over this before, but I want to make it clear for everybody out there in the audience that these are legit. One of them is this letter right here, where Letitia James gave power of attorney to a relative in order to secure a purchase of a home. It's a 2-page document that is available in her public filings, and in this 2-page document, Letitia James, who signs this, has it notarized by an assistant attorney general, declares that she is going to make the property that they're going to buy her primary residence. Now, of course, if you make Virginia your primary residence as the New York Attorney General, or write that in a sworn document that you file in court, then one of two things has to be true. One is that you move to Virginia. Therefore, you are no longer the Attorney General. And since this document was filed just weeks before she ended up talking about the charges that she would file against the evil orange man, she was not actually the Attorney General at the time that she brought that case. But the actual explanation of this is that she committed fraud to get better terms on the mortgage because your primary residence or your principal residence has better terms than a secondary residence, and that is why she needs to be held accountable, because that is fraud in order to get a lower interest rate, as she was going after the evil orange man for misrepresentations in documents in order to get lower interest rates on loans. And by the way, while Trump's case was bigger in terms of scale because he had more properties, Trump's lawyers gave a disclaimer to the financial institutions that they needed to do their own valuations of the property, and they should do that, and they did do that, which is why they weren't even alleging to be victims. In this case, Letitia James committed the fraud and benefited from the fraud according to the allegations, or allegations as the super mayor would call them.
False allegations and not facts.
Now, the second relevant portion of this is that Letitia James has a building with 5 apartment units in there. However, on her mortgage application, she lists that there are 4 apartment units on there. Now, the reason why this is absolutely crucial is because buildings with over 4 units, so 5 and above, have to get a commercial mortgage, which has worse rates, more regulations and whatnot. However, making your building suddenly a 4-unit building gives you a bunch of different advantages in terms of finances, which, by the way, lying about the number of units is actually fraud. And it's funny that she actually prosecuted Trump for overstating the size of a penthouse apartment in his particular building, while she does the same exact thing in order to get better rates on this property. Now, another thing that Letitia James has been caught dead to rights on is that on a mortgage application in 1983, she listed her father as her husband on that application, which is clearly and obviously fraud because married couples have better advantages in terms of borrowing money. Now, to be clear, that 1983 mortgage, that is beyond the statute of limitations, so Letitia James can't be prosecuted for that, but it does go to show a pattern of behavior for this woman, and this is why she's dead to rights, and this is why she's freaking out in all these different interviews and press conferences. And the funny thing is that Letitia James, when she was running for Attorney General, was talking about how she was going to find something to sue Trump over to try to sue him into bankruptcy. So the idea that they're going to call this out as a politically motivated prosecution when she ran on going after Trump and destroying his life, as indicated by this video during the primary for Democratic Attorney General.
I've taken on powerful interests like developers. I've taken on legislators. I've taken on landlords. I've taken on powerful interest in the city of New York because I believe in a good fight. And right now, what we need is someone who understands that you should not be afraid, not be fearful of Donald Trump. We should take him down. We should sue him all the way to bankruptcy. We should investigate his business interests. We should investigate his business holdings. We should investigate whether or not why he was once in debt and now in a position to purchase all of this property. We can do that because I've been trained to do that, and I will do that at the same time knowing the office of Attorney General and its powers and its responsibilities and its duties. My name is Letitia James, and I plan on being the next Attorney General of the state of New York. God bless you and thank you.
Just shows you the absurdity of their claims now, all of a sudden talking about weaponization of the justice system.
And taxpayers may be footing the bill for Letitia James's legal fees related to that mortgage fraud, the series of allegations.
False allegations and not facts.
That we broke right here on The Angle. Governor Kathy Hochul's budget bill now has language that would actually put taxpayers on the hook for officials dealing with Trump administration-led investigations. So if the DOJ takes up Tish's criminal referral and this bill passes, she could end up tapping into a $10 million fund to cover any reasonable attorney's fees and expenses incurred.
Now, to show you that they're worried, and by the way, that there's more corruption in the state of New York, it turns out in the recent budget deal signed by Governor Kathy Hochul, they actually appropriated about $10 million in order to pay the legal defense of government officials who might find themselves in trouble with the evil orange man's administration due to cases that could be brought up after the passage of the budget. So that's essentially a $10 million slush fund for Letitia James that she gets to spend on her personal attorneys fighting against this mortgage fraud that, again, a regular ordinary citizen would not have access to, and other government officials do not have access to when they're facing the prosecution from the state of New York or from the federal government in previous administrations. But Letitia James, she's totally covered. Her legal bills, and by the way, by extension, other state and local officials in the state of New York have their legal bills covered up to $10 million based on the fact that this money was appropriated for them, something that they didn't do when Eric Adams was facing prosecution under the Biden administration. Now, of course, I told you on this channel that I did believe that Eric Adams was in fact corrupt and probably should have been prosecuted for said corruption, but look at the double standard right here. If it's the Biden administration going after Eric Adams for crimes that I think were legit, that actually have some documentation behind them, even if there is a cloud of maybe a political prosecution, no lifeline for Eric Adams. He's going to have to fight that case on his own. But Letitia James, under threat for lying on documents that have her signature on it, that are clear and obvious in order to commit fraud, we're going to defend her. We're going to put the money up for her so she doesn't have to come out of pocket in order to pay her own bills. So yeah, Letitia James could flail, she could panic, she could yell and scream about unfair treatment, but in reality, this is actually something that politicians have been prosecuted for in the past. Marilyn Mosby, the state's attorney for Baltimore County, was prosecuted for lying about her finances in order to obtain a property in Florida in federal court under the Biden administration. Letitia James could be held to that same standard. It is not like her case against Trump, where she used some obscure, outdated law that had never been applied that way in order to go after him when they didn't even have a victim, in order to get an historic over $400 million fine from the evil orange man. And then she threatened to seize his assets, i.e. his properties, in order to sell them in order to pay the fine. So again, she was trying to bankrupt this person. That was her campaign promise. That's exactly how she acted in office, but now she's going to complain about unfair prosecution and about how she's the victim. Now look, as I said on Timcast, which by the way I was on this past Wednesday, that will be linked in full in the description, I do want this case to be rock solid. All the I's need to be dotted, all the T's need to be crossed, because if you're going to go after somebody in the opposing party, you want to make it 100% clear that it is based on legitimate grounds. And as far as this case goes, as long as it remains within the realm of the legitimate and not dipping into revenge, I'm totally fine with this prosecution, because Letitia James is absolute scum. And by the way, she's not just scum for going after the evil orange man, who a lot of you like. Andrew Cuomo, who a lot of you can't stand, including myself, was also targeted by Letitia James. She put together a hatchet job report that was ultimately used to force Andrew Cuomo to resign for governor, just so she could run for governor, and then she got smacked around by Kathy Hochul in the Democratic primary, so she didn't even get her goal. But she has shown us with those actions that she is willing to put her thumb on the scale in order to advance her own career politically, and that is somebody who shouldn't be the attorney general of any state in this country, let alone one of the largest states in the union, let alone the attorney general of choice to go after the evil orange man. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts about these recent developments. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Letitia James panicking. Till next time.